Hey everyone. I hope you guys are all doing well in this complicated time. Let's just jump into it. I'm going to talk about Eastern versus Western values. Okay, so first thing is we should all know this by now. You can bandage a problem, right? But it won't go away. It'll keep coming up. And until the essence of a problem is solved, it'll continue to present itself. So I've personally been seeing the same problem in between the Eastern versus Western values for the last 20 years. And I wrote about it in the first chapter of my book back in 2004. And with all the updating I've been doing on everything, this is one of the things that just sort of stayed consistent. And I don't think I've ever really talked about it anywhere else. So yeah, I'll just take this opportunity to talk about it because we're in another flare up, and everyone's going to say peace now, ceasefire, stop this, stop that. But it's yeah, it's good that there's no war, but it's just going to flare up again if the essence of the problem isn't solved. And so this is what it is for the last 20 years. And I mean, you look back in history as well to see this essence. It's been there. It's always been there. And just to bring it to light, and so that we can actually solve the core problem and not only deal with all the symptoms that keep popping up. So let's start off with an analogy. We're looking at the country of France here. And we've got two people. So let's stick them each there. We got one person near Strasbourg and the other one near Rennes. And yeah, they're going to try to get to Paris. That's their job. So they each ask for directions. So the red asks for directions and they say Paris is west. And the blue asks for directions and the instructions are Paris is east. So they got their directions and they're going to start going. Yep. And both of these directions are true. For the blue, Paris is east, and for the red, Paris is west. So they start traveling and then they pass Paris, but they still keep the same instructions. So what was once true is now false. And then when they get together and they start talking about where Paris is, each one is going to have a different argument. Oh, one's going to say Paris is east, the other one's going to say Paris is west. So there's your analogy. So what's happening is they're not updating their instructions. They're getting their instructions at the beginning of the journey, and they're not updating. They're just continuing with the same instructions. So we're going to try to use binary categorical thinking to simplify the conflict. So we'll just take these two categories, Western values and Eastern values, just broad brushstrokes. And I know this is a little bit irresponsible to be so broad, but yeah, we're just going to try to pick categories, try to categorize each one, the Western versus Eastern values. And it turns out these categories already exist, and I'll talk about them now. So this is from 2004 when I wrote about it. So where we see the Western and Eastern value categories is from the Kabbalah. And so I'll just talk really quickly about Kabbalah. We've got like the head area, we've got the heart and the value area. We have the progressive versus conservative categories here, but really what we're going to be focusing on is this, the Hesed and the Gavua. Those are where the values are. And it turns out that values actually match one-to-one with Western versus Eastern values, and we'll just talk about them really quickly. I'll prove it to you. Don't take my word for it. So today, the world conflict, we have Western values, which is Hesed, which is nurturing love. And we have Gevura, which is strength and discipline. And the Eastern values go more according to strength and discipline. Now, again, these are very broad brushstrokes. Everybody has both. And, society in general has to have both. But it's which one is being stressed more and which one are we moving towards? Like, which direction is Paris is really what we're asking. So about 2,000 years ago, the Western world got their instructions to move in their direction. And about 1,400 years ago, the Eastern world got their instructions. So here we have Islam was created and we have Christianity was created. So let's look at that moment in time to see what was going on. So let's start with the West. West got directions about 2,000 years ago. We have ancient Rome, and they got their instructions of Hesed. So let's see what the Roman Empire values were at the time. Fides, loyalty; pietas, dutiful respect; disciplina, discipline, self-control; gratitas, self-control; perseverance, honor, esteem. So all of these qualities and traits are derivatives of gavoa, which is strength and discipline. So loyalty is a discipline. Dutiful respect, it's a strength, it's a discipline. This is just a rough categorization, rough translation of the categorization. But all of these ideas fall under the umbrella of Gavoa. honor, esteem. And then we have Christian values, which is, again, I want to stress this isn't what the text is saying. It's what the culture is saying is what the Christian values are. So we have love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness. And so all of these values are actually chesed. They're very nurturing love values. And so what happened is back at the time of the Roman Empire, the values were too far in the Gavula direction, and there were a lot of atrocities being committed. I didn't want to bring up all of the negative side of things, but if you want to go back and look at Roman history, you can see that along with all of these positives, there's also a whole bunch of negatives, and the church comes along and starts pushing the opposite values, the chesed. Okay, and so here we've got the narrative, we've got the Roman Empire starts in Gavula, then we get these Western instructions, which are true, right? This is the direction that the Roman Empire needed to go. They needed to go towards chesed. But what happened? But 2,000 years later, we've got those instructions, and now they've become somehow false. And so West, 2,000 years later, this is what the East sees. So the East sees that Christianity, and the West is talking about nurturing love as values, core values. But at the same time, what do they see? They see priests molesting the school children, and they see all of this. In Eastern eyes, this is very Hesed. This goes against their values, and these are the Western values. So let's look at the pre-Islamic values. So pre-Islamic values, you had the asha, the good thoughts, the good words, the good deeds, the charity, the kindness for his own sake. So these are all chesed qualities. All of the pre-Islamic Arabic tribes were very fractured and not united, but they all had some variation for the good and the bad. I'm really only just writing the good side of things here. And you see also like this is an image of an idol, and you see it's a very, very explicit idol, right? And then you have the Islamic values, which are modesty, fasting, submission, fear and awe, respect, justice, self-sacrifice, contentment, right? They're anti-excess, anti-greed, right? Very strength and discipline-oriented values, which come to push against the ancient values, which were too much on the chesed side. So you see the same pattern happened. They have the pre-Islam chesed, the nurturing love, and then Islam comes along and changes the direction, which is absolutely 100% true. To change that direction is exactly what needed to happen. Or if you believe in balance, you get the Eastern instructions, which is the Gavula, the strength and the discipline. And then, but 1400 years later, what the West sees in Islam and in the East is you have honor killings, and you have Islam will dominate the world, and everyone wearing these very modest dress, and it's very, very disciplined strength, to extreme, to the extreme. And this is what the West is evaluating the East on. And so you can see that these core values are fighting each other. The East is pushing strength, and the West is pushing love. And each one is saying, no, you need more strength. And the East is right. The East is right. The West has lost itself. And the West is right. The East has lost itself. So each one is seeing something accurate in the other person. They're just not seeing themselves correctly. And so until the essence of a problem is solved, it will continue to present itself. We'll just keep seeing this over and over again. And I saw this 20 years ago, and I'm still seeing it today. It has not changed. So before I get to that, I want to talk about just, with my own kids. So my daughter, for example, she's really good at making friends. She's very friendly, and I don't have to teach her or stress that or give her any values about making friends and stress how important it is. I just don't have to do that. It's just very automatic with her. But she struggles with math and understanding why math is important. And I really have to educate her and give her values on why math is important. The funny thing is with my son, I don't have to do that with him. He's great at math, but I do have to push him to be more aware of other people and to make friends. And it's just completely the opposite. But each one of them is going to be getting different set of instructions from me. And the thing is, if they work on themselves their whole life, and eventually my son might become really charismatic and have a lot of friends, and he might have those instructions and go too far with those instructions. What he's gleaning from me is just what he's missing in his life, what he needs to improve on. But the thing is, if you don't update, once you've gone far enough, you don't check back with the source, you don't update, your culture can run away with itself. What the culture took out of the text and is holding on to as an instruction culturally. The culture of Christianity has adopted one side, the chesed side, and grown towards that direction. And those are their instructions. And now the question is, how do you update them? How do they update? How do you turn them around and get them to see the other side of things? Well, it's really hard because it's so ingrained and built into part of their culture. It's over the last 2,000 years, they've been evolving to that direction. So what I wanted to clarify is it's not about the text, it's about the culture that's adopted that text. So here's an excerpt from the book I was writing in 2004. This is a quote by Rabbi Tzadok Cohen. It says, "You should be aware that everything has two extremes and a center. The two extremes are chesed and gavura. Opposite these sefirot of holiness, there are sefirot in the realm of klipot. The three cardinal sins, the source of the three cardinal sins, immorality, adultery, bloodshed and murder, and idolatry, is these sefirot. So you have the good side and the bad side. You saw sefirot of holiness and the sefirot of the cardinal sins, the immorality, the bloodshed, and murder. In the holy sefirot, chesed represents the highest form of spiritual love. In the realm of the klipot, chesed stands for the most sordid depravity. The sefirot of gvura of the realm of the klipot becomes manifest in bloodshed and the killing of innocent people." Okay, here's another one. This is straight from the Torah, from Leviticus. So this is an interesting quote. "A man who shall take his sister, the daughter of his father or the daughter of his mother," right? So we're talking about your sister, "and he shall see her nakedness, and she shall see his nakedness," so incest, "it is a chesed." They're calling it right now a loving kindness. It's a chesed. "And they shall be cut off in the sight of the members of their people. He will have uncovered the nakedness of his sister. He shall bear his iniquity." It's either too much chesed, it's an imbalance in chesed, it's the negative side of chesed. And we're seeing that today, that there is a lot of sexual depravity going on. And we have sexual laws for a reason, because this is one of the places we can definitely stray in our lives. There are clear violations in the sexual domain. And when we're pushing that barrier over and over again, that is part of the domain of chesed, the loving kindness. This is what our culture is pushing. And this is what the Eastern culture is against. So here we have the Maharal of Prague in Gevurot Hashem, chapter 6. He writes that honor and respect, the gevura, is how one should behave towards those who are superior. And nurturing and kindness, chesed, is how one should behave towards one who is inferior. And so when the West behaves with kindness and not with respect, they signal to the East that they believe they're superior. This is the message that the East is getting. He continues in the same area. "It is their very equality that gives rise to strife, for the lesser does not strive with the greater." So he's talking about war only happens when two people are equal. All need shalom, all need peace to preserve their existence, so that society and all its members can harmoniously function. So what he's talking about is these conflicts are only happening because we're at a stage where we see equality. So in your country, when you have a clear majority of one people, nothing's going to happen. But once the majority starts tipping, once the people in your country start feeling like they're equal or they're just as powerful as you, that's when you'll start seeing the strife and the conflict. It should be understood that human perception is never the ultimate, but only limited and relativistic. And so we're seeing the same thing here. Our perception isn't ultimate, it's just relative to where we're at. Okay, so the solution. So we have to first thing, we have to update the directions to Paris. We've gone too far in one direction, we need to update those. The way we understand the instructions are now false. So we have to update those instructions in order for them to be true, in order to get back to Paris. We need to reorient ourselves, and every culture in its own way. So Western values are the solution for the East, and Eastern values are the solution for the West. We have to learn from each other, find balance, and then we can finally meet in Paris together. Thank you.